The legal system runs on one rule: guilt must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But what if the defendant's greatest weapon is making doubt itself disappear? Primal Fear isn't just a courtroom thriller, it's a psychological trap where the truth is a puppet and the real crime hides behind the face of an angel. Let's dissect the lies, the loopholes, and the jaw-dropping final twist you might have missed. The movie starts with an attorney named Martin Vail giving an interview for a magazine to a writer named Jack. Martin is a highly renowned lawyer. He does not believe in justice or truth. What matters to him is the client. What the client has done does not matter to him. For him, it is the money that comes with it, and he believes that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. At the Chicago Bar Association, there was a ceremony for the church where the archbishop was the guest of honor. He gets ready and reaches the Chicago Bar Association. It was full of lawyers and politicians. He was there to discuss a legal matter with John Shaughnessy, who was the district attorney. He saw his old girlfriend, Janet Venable. She was a beautiful lady and a lawyer herself. They had remained in a relationship for 6 months in the past. He tried to rekindle the relationship, but Janet was not interested, and it didn't work out the way he wanted. The next morning, Martin was able to discuss a settlement for one of his clients, Joey. John Shaughnessy offered his client a huge amount, but the condition was to leave the city and disappear forever. It was a matter of land, and Joey was a stone in his plans. While at the Archbishop's mansion, we see someone attacking and killing Richard Rushman brutally. Richard, being an archbishop, was a man of God, and what would he have done to deserve this? Wounds were all over his body. Postman saw the window breaking during the attack and immediately reported it to the police. But by then, Archbishop was dead. Who killed him and why? What was the motive for such a crime? The answer may come in the latter part of the movie. Martin, after the settlement discussion, met with his client, Joey, and told him to take the settlement money and disappear, but he refused to leave. He refused because he was getting that offer from the district attorney for quite some time. He was right on his moral grounds. After the attack at the mansion, reporters and police were present there. The area has been cordoned off, and an investigation has been started. Detective Stenner also arrived at the scene. The scene was gruesome. The victim's body had cuts all over, a scene which is not for faint-hearted. The killer had stabbed him more than 70 times with a knife, cutting off his fingers in the process. He must have had extreme hatred towards the victim. Then we see him, a young man, his clothes covered in blood. He was running away from the police, trying desperately to run away, but in the end, he was caught and taken into custody. Martin was giving an interview to Jack while looking at the news in the bar. He realized the importance of this case. This case was his ticket to fame, celebrity murder case, because everyone would be looking at that. He called his office and instructed his secretary to arrange a meeting with the suspect at the jail. As he reached there, he met with the suspect. It was not what he had expected. It was a 19-year-old, innocent and good-looking man named Aaron Stampler. Martin offered him his services free of cost, and the young man was grateful. Martin asked about him and came to know that he had been living in the Savior House for 2 years and was brought here by the Archbishop himself. As he was begging on the roads in the city, and even though he had cleared the legal age to live there, he was still allowed to live there by the Archbishop. According to Aaron, the Archbishop was like a father to him. He gave his side of the story to Martin and said that when he came to the room, the Archbishop was already dead, and he saw Simone standing near his body. As that person moved towards him, he blacked out. He does not remember what happened next. When he regained consciousness, he was covered in blood, and as he heard sirens, he got scared and ran away. Martin listened carefully and told him not to talk to anyone except him regarding this matter. As Martin came back to his office, he instructed his team, which consisted of Tommy Goodman and Naomi, to gather all the information he had asked for. The team, which was handling the case against Aaron, appointed Martin's former girlfriend, Janet Venable, as the prosecuting attorney for this case. It was an opportunity for her, and she had a better chance because she had worked under him in the field. Martin went to inspect the murder site, where he met with Janet. They had a friendly chat regarding the case, and Janet left. Martin inspected the site. The scene showed the evidence of resistance as bloodstains were everywhere. He visited Aaron in the maximum security dormitory. Aaron was kept there because of the heinous crime he was accused of. He told him to keep silent at the hearing and look innocent. As Martin met with the press, he told them that there are 2 victims, and one of them was his client. In the courtroom, Aaron was accused of charges of first-degree murder. But Martin asked the judge to make a psychiatric evaluation of his client before pressing charges, and said that his client will not be in a condition to answer anything before that. Martin's associate, named Tommy Goodman, visited Aaron's room for inspection and any proof that he could find. As he was searching the room, suddenly a young man attacked him. During the struggle, he removed the earring that the young man was wearing, which wounded the young man. But the attacker was able to escape. Martin showed Aaron the earring, and Aaron identified it as Alex's, but he was not sure why Alex was in his room, and whether it was Alex who killed the archbishop. Martin also came to know of Aaron's girlfriend, Linda, who used to work for the archbishop. Martin talked with a psychiatrist, and she agreed to analyze Aaron's amnesia issue. It was the amnesia issue which is the root cause of his being absent mentally even while present at the site of the crime. While Dr. Molly began her evaluation of Aaron's mental state, Martin met with prosecutor Janet in an attempt to strike a deal, urging her to consider life imprisonment instead of the death penalty. However, Janet refused, firmly following John's directive to pursue the maximum sentence, death. The discussion that started on a lighter side had now begun to heat up, because Janet was an ambitious lawyer, willing to do what was needed to complete her task, and Martin was also doing all he could to save his client. The next court hearing saw Janet presenting the pictures of the crime to the court. Martin objected, giving the reason that the prosecutor's attorney is using these pictures as a shock treatment to the jury. Before the matter could heat up, the judge told them to take a break. Dr. Molly had the interview going about his girlfriend and their relationship, but when she asked about their sexual relationship, we see Aaron's face changing. And when the doctor asked him whether Linda was sleeping with someone else, he felt uneasy, but he was able to change the subject. At this point, even a simple reference to his girlfriend's life seemed to disturb him. But why? Was she keeping secrets? Martin's secretary Naomi, while searching for the number which were carved in the chest of the archbishop, failed to find anything related to it, but as she researched the assets of the archbishop, she showed Martin the name of district attorney John in a deal about a piece of land which was near South River. As Martin investigated, came to realize that John Shaughnessy was a rich developer who used to buy land around the church and tore houses on them to displace people. But on the request of the people living in the area, the archbishop told John to stop demolishing the properties on the South River, and it had caused John a loss of millions of dollars. John invited Martin to dinner, during which he complained that Martin's client Joey is not behaving according to the deal that they negotiated, and that Naomi, Martin's secretary, is searching the finances of the church. It was clear that John was keeping a close eye on their activities. At this point, Martin asked him about his losses when the archbishop pulled the plug on their South River deal. This infuriates John as he realized what Martin is thinking. And he tells Martin not to play with fire, and Martin tells him to get prepared, as things might get messy. The case resumed in the court, and Janet presented in the court the knife that the killer used to kill the archbishop. In return, Martin turned the case towards the archbishop's investments that he had made, which resulted in a loss of millions of dollars for some very powerful people, because of which he received many death threats. He said that the prosecutor does not want the jury to know about these, as they drive the case in a different direction. And he tells the jury that the prosecutor cannot give them the motive for killing, because it does not exist. The prosecutor Janet brings in the forensic chief. She showed the jury the shoes, and the forensic chief verified that Aaron was wearing those shoes as he was apprehended. But Martin was able to introduce the idea of a third person who did all the things, and then put the knife in the hands of the fainted Aaron so that the fingerprints on the knife would be his and not of the killer. Similarly, he made another witness, the medical examiner, say the same thing, that there was a possibility that a third person was involved in making those wounds. Things at the court were becoming intense. Then Janet called in Captain Stinner, who was working on the case. She asked him about the numbers that were carved in the chest of the archbishop with a knife, and asked if he was able to find any resemblance to anything. He nodded, and that shocked Martin. How could they miss such an important point? His team was unable to find any connection between the numbers and anything else. This could have become the cause of their failure in this case. Captain Stenner said that it is the catalog code of a book, which is present in the basement of the church. In the book, on page 156, there was an underlined passage that says, A man cannot live two separate lives forever. One for the world and one for himself. One day he will lose track of his true identity. Janet asked Captain Stenner about his interpretation of the passage, and he said that for him, that means that the killer thinks that the victim was two-faced, which means that he was living two lives, one for the world and one for his satisfaction. A deceptive person indeed. There it was, a motive for the killing. It was the motive that Martin was not prepared for. He was pissed. He looked at his team in anger. After the hearing, Martin went to Aaron and asked him if he had marked the passage, and he denied it. Martin believed him, after all. How can such an innocent young man lie? Then he went to his team and shouted at them, telling Toomey to do his job and find Alex, who had attacked him. It was a panic situation. Dr. Molly continued her analysis of Aaron, and she continued asking questions about his girlfriend Linda, which seemed to make Aaron uncomfortable. He looked at the camera. He knew that it was recording. He said that he does not want to talk about it, but Molly insisted. Aaron complained of a headache. Molly went near the camera, and she was about to turn off the recording when Aaron replied in a negative tone. Molly got scared and went on to stand near the door, but quickly, Aaron came back to his original ways like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Martin reached a place and parked his car. He was called in by Tommy, who had his eyes on Alex, who attacked him in Aaron's room. They both started to move towards Alex to capture him. As soon as Alex saw them, he ran, and they ran after him. After a long chase, and a bit of hide-and-seek, and a struggle, they were able to capture him. As they interrogated him, he revealed that he went into Aaron's room for a videotape in which he, Linda, and Aaron are having sex on the instructions of the archbishop, and Aaron himself shot it for the archbishop. He told them that the archbishop called it purging the devil, told them that the archbishop would give a sermon for 10 minutes, and then he would instruct them on what to do next. This was a huge accusation, an accusation that no one would believe. They asked about Linda, and he said that she ran away. He also alleged that it was Aaron who killed the archbishop, but he may not have destroyed the tape. They took him into custody and went their way. In the morning, Martin went into the mansion of the archbishop, and he looked for the tape. Soon, he found it. He replaced the sticker on another tape and put it in place of the acquired one. Then they watched the tape, and it had what Alex had described. Now they know that Aaron had the motive to kill the archbishop as he was abusing them. For his own satisfaction, Martin went straight to Aaron. He removed the camera, and then he told Aaron to stop lying to him. He was behaving aggressively, and Aaron was panicking, started behaving like he was having a headache. Martin also told him that he had watched the sex tape, and he wanted him to confess. At that point, things took a dark turn. He saw Aaron talking to himself, but like a completely different person. The new Aaron looked threatening. As he turned around and looked at Martin, Aaron asked about him, and then started using abusive language about himself. But it was like he considered Aaron a different person, making fun of him during the process. He introduced himself as Roy. He told Martin that he himself had killed the archbishop. And when Martin asked about Linda, he replied that Linda was a very bad girl, and she was deceiving Aaron, and Aaron was a fool to think of her as his girlfriend. When Martin asked him that, did he kill the archbishop because of sex tapes, Roy got out of control and started saying that he told Aaron to destroy the tape, because they would provide the motive for killing. He was so out of control that he hit Martin, wounding him, told him to destroy the tape and not show it to anyone. At that moment, Dr. Molly entered the room and shouted Aaron's name, which brought back the original Aaron, still bewildered about what had happened. Later, Martin met with Dr. Molly, who told him that all the indicators point toward his disease. He has not killed anyone, but it was his alter ego that has done it all. She said that he is ambidextrous. She also said that she will testify that he is insane and is suffering from multiple personality disorder, but Martin knew that the case was lost, as he could not change the plea in the middle of the case because the judge would not allow it. But Dr. Molly was still in favor of Aaron, saying that he is not a criminal, but a sick boy who needs treatment. As Martin passed near Aaron's room, he looked inside, and there he was, sleeping soundly like an innocent person. Can multiple personality disorder be that dangerous, so close, yet miles apart? Martin met with his team and knew completely well that they had lost the case. But Martin was still a believer that Aaron was innocent, and he did not commit the first-degree murder. Because for a capital crime to be proved, the state must prove it was intended, but in Aaron's case, killing was not intended. He believed that Roy was the killer and Aaron was innocent, two separate personalities living side by side. They decided to provide the sex tape in the trial, but it would destroy the case for them, as the jury would despise them for dishonoring the bishop, so they thought of a plan. They would let the state prosecutor bring the issue to the court. All they had to do was put the tape on her doorstep, and that is what they did. The doorbell rang, and Janet opened the door. There was no one at the door, just a packet containing the tape. Soon, Martin received Janet's call. They met at the bar. Janet said that she would not use the tape as it would give sympathy to the alleged killer, and she was right. That tape might give the court the motive for the killing, but it was certain to get hate from the jury toward the presenter of the tape. She also said that Martin is involving John in the trials, and it may cause a backlash. The next morning, when Janet reached the office, John was waiting for her, and he asked about the tape. John was pissed, told her to destroy the tape just like he had done. This sentence showed that there might have been many tapes or recordings of such a scenario, and John Shaughnessy has been hiding this for personal benefits. The court trial began, and we can see that Janet is really stressed. She called Tommy as her first witness, and everyone was surprised, but Martin allowed it. She asked Tommy if he had been near her apartment in the last few days, and Tommy admitted it. He was playing the game according to the plan made by them. She asked about the tape and its content, and he slowly described it. Aaron looked disappointed. He does not want this to be revealed. She asked Tommy why the tape was there, and his answer was simple: because the archbishop was the director. There was a noise in the crowd. The crowd could not believe this. News was not what anybody expected. Aaron was looking down in shame. The case was adjourned for the evening. Later, Martin receives a phone call from Tommy. It was bad news. His client Joey had died. His body was recovered from the water, was shot, a reward for going against John. That was it for Martin. In the next hearing, he called John Shaughnessy as his first witness. He asked him about the Rushman Foundation and its purpose, and also about the bankrupt South River housing development project. He proved that Shaughnessy might have the motive to kill him, as he had caused him a huge loss of $60 million at that time. He also asked him about a case of sexual abuse, which was filed against the archbishop, but Shaughnessy did not let the trial happen, thus saving his friend. But when the archbishop stopped them from destroying houses in the area of South River, it was too much for them, and they killed him. It was a huge allegation against the district attorney, and the court was suspended for the moment. The judge penalized Martin for contempt of court and fined him $10,000, and also warned him to stay relevant with his client and Shaughnessy's statement was removed from the record as irrelevant. While watching the tapes recorded by Dr. Molly, he noticed that Roy surfaces only when Aaron is very upset. On the next hearing, Martin called in Dr. Molly as his witness and tried to prepare a ground for multiple personality disorder. But the court and the prosecutor objected, and Janet Cross questioned her to prove that there was no record of Aaron's transformation into Roy. Things were not shaping up the way Martin had wanted. Then he had an idea as he went back. He called Aaron to the witness box, and he tried to bring Roy out by teasing him. He asked questions about the archbishop and why he was like a father to him. Also asked him about the abuse that he went through due to the archbishop, but Aaron showed no anger towards the archbishop. He also denied knowing anyone named Roy. By then, the stage was set, and Aaron was not feeling good, and it was Janet's time to interrogate him. She approached him and started interrogating him. Aaron was becoming uncomfortable. She started abusing the archbishop, who was like a father figure for Aaron. She said that the archbishop used them just for his sexual pleasures. Aaron was traumatized, and the judge was keeping a close eye on him. Janet continued her onslaught, and as she continued, Aaron broke. Roy looked at her, and then he attacked her, grabbed her neck, and threatened to break it. It was pure chaos at the court, and now there were many witnesses to his multiple personalities. Police and Martin were able to save Janet from the grip of Roy, and he was taken away by the police. The judge ruled the case not guilty because of insanity. Janet was stressed, as she had lost her job. Martin tried to comfort her, but she was too stressed. But hey, who cares? At least justice was done, and an innocent young man's life was saved. Martin met with Aaron and gave him the good news. He doesn't remember what happened at the court, usual memory loss, which he was used to. At the end, Aaron told Martin to apologize to Miss Janet from his side and asked about her neck. Martin nodded and moved out, but then it dawned on him, how could he know of Janet's neck if he went through a blackout? Aaron smiled. It was him all along, the devil hiding behind that innocent face. He admitted killing both Linda and the archbishop, and he was enjoying it. Martin asked him, so there is no Roy? Aaron smiled devilishly and said, no. There is no Aaron. It was a checkmate for Martin. It's the person who was feeling like a winner. Just lost everything without knowing that it was he who set the stage for it, but it was too late for anything now. The system was played, and Aaron was a calculating murderer who just got away with it.